the so-called king of your country, not of mine, can take a leadership approach here and bring peace to First Peoples in this country. So if he did not ignore the many letters I've written to him as a senator in the federal parliament in this country, then how else am I to get the attention to say, hey, King, there's a problem in this country?
Now, no one thought the King's trip to Australia would be entirely trouble-free. And this morning he was heckled by a senator at the Australian Parliament in Canberra. Well, that was the independent Senator Lidia Thorpe making her feelings very clear, and Lidia Thorpe is with us now. Welcome to Times Radio. Why did you decide to heckle the King?
Well, I wouldn't consider it heckling. I would say that it is truth-telling, and it's something that this country and many others don't understand, that there was a violent invasion of this country over 200 years ago. Our people still are the poorest people in our own country. Our land has been destroyed. We've had 24,000 of our children taken away from their families. We still reel in the effects of the invasion, even though it's, over 200 years ago. So your king, Charlie, needs to acknowledge that genocide occurred in this country, and we want a treaty. We want peace. We want to stop this endless oppressive regime that happens to First Peoples in this country.
So are you saying that the King personally, Charlie, as you call him, has some kind of individual responsibility for the things that happen to Indigenous people in Australia? Or is this more about what Britain has done as a state in the past?
This is about Charlie's family, the so-called royal family, who have benefited not only from stolen wealth, but they have benefited from the killings of Indigenous people around the world, but particularly right here in my country. And this is something that we've been enduring, this ongoing genocide, where our people are the most incarcerated, we're suiciding with rates off the charts. We have children, babies at the age of 10 being locked up for stealing chocolate bars. The prisons in this country are full of Aboriginal people. Now, if that's not an ongoing war against our people here, then I don't know what is. So all we want this king to do, this new king, is own up to what his family has done to us and sit around the table respectfully and let's talk about a treaty, because he did it in other places. His family did it in other places. So why can't he do it here?
But Lidia Thorpe, aren't many of the, and many would say perfectly legitimate grievances that you're airing, aren't they really for the Australian people and the Australian government to resolve? If you don't want him as your king, you could have another referendum and you could vote to become a republic. But it actually seems like since he ascended to the throne, more people are now in favour of continuing with the monarchy. You had a vote only last year to create an Aboriginal and First Nations people voice that was voted down. In fact, you actually campaigned against that.
That's right.
So why is this on the King and not on Australia?
I voted against that because it's not our constitution. The constitution was imposed upon us when invasion occurred. So in 1901, where they came up with this new law of this country, which does not belong to us. Now, the king, the so-called king of your country, not of mine, can take a leadership approach here and bring peace to First Peoples in this country. So if he did not ignore the many letters I've written to him as a senator in the federal parliament in this country, then How else am I to get the attention to say, hey, King, there's a problem in this country. You haven't treated with us. We want a treaty. We want peace. And we want to unite as a nation. But this government are weak. The last government were weaker. And we want the King to take a leadership role and enforce this country, tell his mates who are in government, who need his sign-off for any legislation, tell them to treaty with us.
But Lidia Thorpe, he is a constitutional monarch. I think you're kind of giving him a kind of constitutional power he simply does not have.
He has more power. Why are we paying for his trip here? So many politicians flew to Canberra for today, and that has cost the Australian taxpayers millions of dollars. Why are we paying for him to visit here? Why does he have to sign off on legislation? Why does he have any connection to this country when it's not his? He's not from here. We need a treaty to resolve the ongoing unfinished business for First Peoples in this country.
What about the way you made your point, Lidia Thorpe? A lot of our listeners are getting in touch this morning and saying even if they themselves are Republicans and don't approve of the monarchy as an institution, they felt the way you interrupted his speech was, frankly, rude and inappropriate. What is your response to that?
My response is that is absolutely incorrect. I actually had the respect and allowed your King to do his full speech. There was no interruption of his speech. So haters are quick to be haters when they don't want to own the truth and don't want to look at what actually happened. I allowed him to finish his speech because I wanted to know what he had to say. And after his speech is when I reminded him that this is still our sovereign land. He is not sovereign of these lands. He is not my king. And I represent the Black sovereign movement. Our sovereignty has never been ceded here. Our people have fought and died for this country and resisted the colonial occupation. Come on, it's 2024. We don't need kings and queens.
Just want to
the cost of living crisis in this country right now is out of control. People are poor. We shouldn't be paying for someone else's king to come here.
But is that not a separate point, though, Lidia? I mean, look, there are a lot of people in Australia, I understand, who don't wish to be part of the monarchy anymore and would like to be a republic. I understand that completely. You had a referendum 25 years ago or so. You voted to remain a monarchy, but public opinion fluctuates on it. I get that. But the King would respect whatever the outcome was of a future referendum. If you feel that strongly, my point to you is the same. That surely is for Anthony Albanese and the Australian government to bring forward a future referendum on the monarchy.
Well, what is the King's responsibility? What is your King's responsibility here when he's shaking hands and having dinner with the Prime Minister this time and the Prime Minister last time? He needs to take responsibility and show some leadership and not allow this oppressive regime that continues to happen on First Peoples in this country. I'm asking for his leadership. And I'm also asking for him to give back everything he stole. He stole our bones. He stole our skulls. His family are responsible for stealing so much from our country, and we'd like some of that back, please.
Simon has sent a message saying, how would the King be able to do as Lidia Thorpe demands and give the indigenous people of Australia their land back? How would that work in practice? Does she want to banish all Australians of European heritage from the land, as in Zimbabwe? It is not the King's to give. It would be for the Australian Parliament to work out. What's your response, Lidia?
No, I wouldn't do that. I believe that the King should apologise for what his kingdom has done to our people, and that we have something called Crown land around our country. Well, at least give us all the Crown land back. If you are the Crown, then give us that Crown land back. We should not be the poorest people and the sickest people in our own country. And whilst, he can waltz in here and go and see some of the highlights in selected areas, he needs to hear from the people who are doing it hard, and he needs to hear from people like me who is supported by traditional custodians in this country, particularly the Black sovereign movement. And he needs to have a conversation with us about what we see as a future for our country and our people and everybody else in it. So we asked for what he stole and what his family stole from us. We want that back. We want him to apologise for the genocide that occurred and the many massacres of our people at invasion. And we're happy to move forward, but show some respect and answer my letters, because I'm happy to have a respectful conversation.
Lidia Thorpe, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's the independent Senator Lidia Thorpe there, who of course heckled the King during his trip to Australia today.